I know where I was standing when I learned about the Parkland shooting and the Columbine shooting and Sandy Hook, and this past week with what happened in Uvalde in Texas. For that one, I was standing in line getting ice cream with students from my school because it was our last day, and I got the alert on my phone about what had happened. And I want to tell you all this morning that it doesn't have to be this way. My name is Andrea Hunley, for those of you who I've not yet had the pleasure of meeting. In addition to being Ryan's wife, I am also a teacher and a public school principal. I've been serving our schools for the past 17 years. And for that entire time, I've been on the front lines training kids on what it means to prepare for active shooters. This past Tuesday, for our last day, we had a lovely assembly where we had all of our students gathered, 450 of them in our school gym, and we were preparing for our variety show, the end of the year talent show. And I was standing in the doorway of the gym along with my assistant principal because whenever we have a gathering that large, we always prepare ourselves for the worst case scenario. And it doesn't have to be this way. I shouldn't have to stand in the door of the gym of my school prepared to stand in the line of fire for children and for teachers because our government officials don't do their jobs. It doesn't have to be this way. And so I come here this morning to remind you all that you have power. I've been walking through a fog the past 4 days. I mean, really, truly feeling just weighed down by the burden of moms who wake up today without their babies next to them. I feel it so deeply. A husband of the teacher in Uvalde, Texas, who they've been married for 24 years, he died of a heart attack because he's so heartbroken. And now 4 more children don't have parents today. And again, it doesn't have to be this way. I'm also frustrated because every time I read a tweet, and I will tell you I have not put anything on social media about this because I can't. I just don't have the energy. And every time I read a tweet about somebody being outraged or angry, I get so frustrated because here in Marion County, 11% of people voted in the last election. That's it. About 1 in 10 people cared enough to go to the polls and actually use their voices and use their power to elect officials who can make change. And so I come here today to ask you all to take action from where you are, to not be one of the 90% that can't be bothered to use your voice at the polls. Please make sure that you are holding our elected officials accountable and that you are electing people who will fight for common sense gun reform, because 90% of Americans want common sense gun reform. I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards about ways that you can help, about groups that you can be organized with, like Moms Demand Action. But right now, I want to just take a moment of silence, all of us together, because I need it. And from the looks on the faces of people in this room, I know that you all need it as well. And so join me in a moment of silence this morning as we stand with those who weep today and who are burdened by the loss due to gun violence. Thank you.
My name is Andrea Watts. I work for the City of Indianapolis, the Department of Metropolitan Development. So that's a city agency that does planning, zoning, historic preservation, economic development, real estate. Am I putting you to sleep yet? But in another life, I think I was a second grade teacher because I love activities. I love coloring. I love stickers. There's usually stickers in my purse. So yeah, I'm going to guide you through my signature activity, which is advice to your future self. So I've got postcards up here. If you have your own pen, could you use it? I kind of failed this morning and didn't bring enough pens. So if you have your own pen, please use it. Shout out to my friends at Big Card Collaborative. They're the ones that gave us these postcards. Mel Allen also from her personal collection. Big exciting news for Big Card. They are bringing back Spark to Monument Circle. So I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but it's really exciting news and fun for public space activation and programming. So a little bit of background on this postcard activity. I've been doing it since I was in college, and I'll get texts from friends saying, hey, I found your postcard from 10 years ago, and the advice is still relevant to today. And that makes me happy, like, oh, look, you got really deep with your advice because it's still relevant today. You can be as shallow or as serious as you want to be. just have fun with it. It could be professional, it could be personal, but you're talking to future you like 2 weeks in advance. And then if you want to, you don't have to do this activity. It is not mandatory fun. It is optional fun. So, so if you just want to opt out and doodle or whatever when we play the music for you guys to do the activity, feel free to. On your way out, I'll have the correspondence box up here for you to drop in there, and then you'll get it in like 2 to 3 weeks. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I did want to talk about the theme of now really quick. It's funny when you're like reading a book and then it just so happens to be part of the theme you're talking about. And I read this quote and I want to share it with you before we get started with the writing activity. So it's from the book Win the Day by Mark Batterson. And according to psychologists, the average person spends 46.9% of their time thinking about something other than what they're doing in the now. And that means we're kind of half present, which means we're half alive. So if you think about this theme of now, and you could be like reflecting or dwelling on the past, or you could be daydreaming or anxious about the future, I think the most control we have is over what we're doing right now.
My name is CreativeMornings. I am a community-driven visionary strategic storyteller, and I am an author as well. I write relationship-focused children's books that focus on different family structures that exist in the world, specifically non-traditional family structures that jumpstart difficult conversations about the intense emotions and experiences that our children and families encounter daily. And I am on a journey of empowering people to wear their crowns. And I just want to talk to you today. Of course, the theme is about now, right? But from my own experience writing my own book, I've come to understand that sometimes we struggle to be who we are in the present moment, if that makes sense to everyone right now. So I want to talk from my own examples because I'm writing a children's book. It's being released in July, actually at the end of July. I have some business cards because I have to leave early, so if you want to connect with me via social media or check out my website or email, it's on the business cards with Ryan, whoever he is. But as I'm writing this children's book, it's about my own experience being in a blended family and dealing with an absentee father. And the thing that I struggled with the most with writing this story was being vulnerable about it, right? Because I'm not only am I exposing the emotions that I experience in my own everyday life, right? I'm writing about what I experienced with not having someone in my life and someone else coming into my life and trying to accept them in. And I have to tell people that I wore a bag over my head because I didn't want to look at my stepdad. Or I have to tell people that I never did a father-daughter dance and how that made me feel, because I know that resonates with someone else. Because my goal is to talk to those children about their experiences so they don't feel alone, or to help those families navigate those conversations so that they can talk to their kids about it so that the whole family doesn't navigate that alone in their own process. And one of the things I struggled with was actually conveying that to people. Like, I felt confident in my book, but I actually wanted to be able to do this, talk to people about it. And in one of my experiences that I had, I talked to a young girl who was a senior in high school about my book and about what I was doing. It was just a one-on-one conversation with her. I was like, yes, this is my chance. Like, this is a good little practice run. We're in the back of the library. Can't nobody hear what I'm talking about right now. Like, we're gonna figure this out. It's a good little trial run before I get to like a bigger stage. And we're just having an honest conversation where I'm discussing the book with her, letting her look through it as like a little beta reader, you know, free help as well. And she was just asking me questions because though she doesn't come from a blended family, she comes from a foster family. So we resonate on that level of wanting a relationship with a parent, but not knowing how to go about doing that. In my case of just not knowing how to reach out, but her just not even knowing where to begin with reaching out, or not knowing where they are. And as she was asking me questions, I just kept getting discouraged because I didn't know how to answer her questions, right? Here I was thinking, I wrote this book, right? Like, I've healed from all the past and I'm going towards my future, but in this present moment, I'm not able to answer her questions. And one of the most profound questions she asked me was, how do I handle if you reach out to your father and he never reaches back out to you? And I just blanked. I didn't have an answer for her. And I felt horrible, right? Like, here I am wanting to do this, right? Writing the books, wanting to be on the stages, have those conversations with people. And here is a 17-year-old asking me a very simple question of, what do you do when you reach out and no one else reaches back out to you? If you try and you fail and no one reaches back out. And I didn't have anything for her. And I had to tell her that I didn't have anything. I told her, I'm sorry that I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry that I don't have the glitz and the glamour to tell you that you're gonna reach out and he's gonna respond with joy. And I can't even tell you that if you reach out and he'll tell you the truth, right? I can just tell you that if the opportunity comes available to me, I'll try, but I don't know what I'll do. I honestly may go cry in a corner somewhere if he doesn't reach out to me. I might honestly give up on ever trying to establish a relationship, but I don't have an answer for you. I had to admit that to her, that I didn't have an answer. And in that moment, I felt defeated, like I should not release this book. I am not qualified to do this, right? I shouldn't do this because I can't answer her questions. So what hope do I have of this book that's already in production, doing the things that I want to do if I can't do that right now in the moment with her? And what she told me that really resonated with me, she told me thank you. Because oftentimes when she's in therapy or she's working with her social workers or working with her family situation, her foster family, everyone tells her something cute and glamoury, like has a cute little slogan, has a cute little phrase. But she was like, I see that you're struggling with every question I give you. I see that you don't have the answer. But what I see also is that despite you not having an answer, despite that you're still going through this, and despite that you're still doing other stuff, that is what matters most to me, is that you don't know and that you're vulnerable enough to tell me that. Because it shows me that even though all this is going on, it's still gonna happen. Everyone tells me I'm gonna get over it, but in reality, I may not. And so that's what I wanna leave you with today, because I had to realize that who I was in the present moment was enough for her. Who I am right now in the midst of me still figuring out my own trauma, still healing from that, and as I aspire to go forward, that intersection of being in the middle is exactly what she needed in that moment. So please do not get so stuck on trying to address your past and trying to manifest your future that you forget to embrace the present moment of who you are right now. Thank you.
I got a length of 3 hours of sleep last night. My 2-month-old is in the corner, so if I just straight up read this, we're all gonna be real chill about that, right? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. As I said, my name is Sarah Frey. I work full-time as the Director of Development and Marketing at the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, Inc. I'm not here with any groundbreaking solutions or expertise in the area of pedestrian infrastructure, but it's what I'm going to talk about. I'm here to tell you about my experiences with it, and hopefully you can relate, but also hopefully you can't relate because maybe you've had a better experience than I have. I'm going to talk through a couple examples of what our city has done right, share with you a bit about my experience, and then hopefully a few simple solutions we can all work together towards to make, just to help out our fellow Hoosiers who rely on safe, smooth, and pedestrian infrastructure. So, as I said, I was recently promoted. I'm currently on hiatus from the Cultural Trail, and I am now Chief Safety and Survival Officer for my 2-month-old son, Julian. Yes. Laughs, but also like, holy shit, that's heavy. And yes, a lot of emotion with that. But so we came home from the hospital on April 1st. Haha, what a fun date to come home. And my husband and I are very much outdoor enthusiasts, and so we didn't want to waste any time making sure we got this kid outside and adjusted to life in the real world. So we took him on a walk in his very over-engineered stroller. I mean, this is like what endurance athletes use to hike mountains and climb, excessive things. So it has shocks, it has struts, it has huge tires. I don't know what any of that means, but it was still no match for our city's infrastructure. We found ourselves jumping curbs at crosswalks. Yes, there was a crosswalk to get you across the street, and then I still had to pop a wheelie to get up on the sidewalk on the other side. And we were hitting bumps, so I was walking to put my son to sleep, and it was waking him up on a regular basis. We would also walk through some of our city's most beautiful neighborhoods where we had previously seen other people walking, and we were like, what are you doing on the street? There's a perfectly good sidewalk right there. Please walk on the sidewalk. And as I'm pushing my son on the sidewalk, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why they're not on the sidewalk. It's a mess. It's not fun. You're shaking the baby, and I have shocks on my stroller. So we find ourselves on these inhospitable sidewalks. And I understand that, pushing a baby in a stroller is a privilege. He gets to enjoy this beautiful stroller. But I just want to acknowledge that this is my experience right now. And I know that not everybody has the experience of being pushed in a stroller. This is what our city, our fellow Hoosiers are relying on for transportation. So I want to think about that as well. So I feel like this would be a great time to plug the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, a legacy of Gina Marilyn Glick, as the only trail in town where my son Julian can sleep the entire time. I'm not here professionally, I'm here personally, but my experience is with the Cultural Trail from a more, real experience. So a few things that, you may not realize about the cultural trail and accessibility. There are ADA accessible ramps at every intersection. There are visual guides cueing you that you are entering an intersection. If you notice, it goes from the beautiful diamond pavers to the stripes. There's ground texture to tangibly cue you that you are entering an intersection, and there are crosswalk buttons with audio to help people who are visually impaired. And my personal favorite is the walk sign tied in with a traffic light so that cars can't, or at least shouldn't, turn into you while you're crossing the street. And I'm sure there are a bunch of others, and my coworkers are here, and they can probably talk to you more about that after this. But again, I'm only at 30% capacity right now, so bear with me, all right? In 2018, a local news station reported that Indianapolis had a backlog of 1,600 reported issues with sidewalks. So clearly, I'm not the only one having this experience. In that news story, a DPW spokesperson say that they look into each case and consider things like whether there's a school nearby, if the sidewalk meets ADA requirements, and whether it's an area with pedestrians that pedestrians walk through on a regular basis. So those are the criteria that they look for. But they also listen to the people. So they also do a technical assessment. They look for city, county councilor input and public input. That's all of us here. So if there's a crack in your sidewalk, if your sidewalk is uneven, you can call and make an impact. But I also think there are things we can do for each other. So who here rides a scooter? All right, me neither, don't raise your hand. We ride Pacers Bike Share, there are docks, they can't be in the sidewalk, right? But if you do ride a scooter, if your friends ride scooters, please tell them not to park them across the sidewalks, okay? All right, also, if you own or rent a home or apartment with a sidewalk in front of it, please shovel snow, lay down salt, pick up branches, and call in if your sidewalk sucks. Also, to that point, report the deficiencies that you see to request Indy. I know we all are like, ugh, government, they're not gonna do anything about anything. Like, I have to take this into my own hands. But if you don't say anything, then nothing will be done. So in conclusion, I'm glad I've been able to see our city's pedestrian infrastructure from a new perspective. I want to acknowledge again that my son's in a stroller that I push, and I can easily pivot. Imagine if you weren't able to walk yourself or had difficulty walking. Then what? You have to go a quarter of the mile out of the way to find an ADA accessible ramp to get on or off the sidewalk? What about the weather? What street are you on when that happens? How fast is traffic going, and who's looking out for you? Not a lot of those cars, I'll tell you that. So while I have your attention and Ryan's flashing the red light at me, the music's gonna start playing, but I wanna say one more thing. Our city needs public restrooms. If your building has a public restroom that is currently closed to the public, open it up, please. We can't be a city that welcomes all if we don't meet basic human needs, like providing folks a place to use the bathroom.
My name is Lindsey, and I am an anxious person. In addition to a sprinkle of social anxiety and a healthy fear of public speaking, I have what the American Psychology Association describes as the chronic fear of environmental cataclysm that comes from observing the seemingly irrevocable impact of climate change, also known as eco-anxiety. And to add another layer to that super fun cake, my particular brand of eco-anxiety comes with the worst catch-22. I care so much about climate change and sustainability and rampant consumerism and extreme weather phenomena, but for fear of spiraling into a panic, I cannot bring myself to read a single news article about any of it. When I try to, my heart rate goes up, kind of like now, and in my mind, I fast forward to the Earth's inevitable deterioration into a barren hellscape where any remaining humans are in a Mad Max-esque battle for minimal resources. Side note, I went to school for visual art, and I have the privilege of working with artists every day, so it gets real vivid in here. All this fear is a fairly recent development for me. Growing up, being mindful of the environment was innate. It just always made sense to me. When you use something up, it's gone. If it comes from the earth, return it to the earth. I can, however, pinpoint the moment that my easy breezy environmental common sense turned into full-blown panicky dread. It was Saturday, January 3rd, 2015, which was the day my son was born. He arrived a little early, and when they handed him to me, he weighed 5 pounds, 11 ounces, but he also suddenly weighed about 13 septillion, 176 trillion pounds, which according to Google is how much the Earth weighs. Here I was holding this hours-old whole person with nothing but an unwritten, unforeseen future ahead of him, and suddenly the world's environmental problems were present and up close with stark, utterly overwhelming clarity. Everything suddenly felt so broken and completely insurmountable. I was one person holding the most important thing I'd ever do with my life, and I couldn't guarantee anything about his future. And I was terrified to a point of inaction. 7 years later, my eco-anxiety is getting better, but I still can't read full news articles on climate change. I can't cite scientific peer-reviewed data or debate climate change deniers, but I still experience that creeping fear, but over the years that my son has been around, my sense of urgency and willingness to make change continues to grow. My dread and paralysis subside more and more as time passes, and I make small, manageable changes to the way I live my life. I'm not saying I'm the picture of environmentalist perfection, but I compost. I shop at farmers markets. I think about avoiding excess packaging whenever possible. I repair things that I have rather than buying new. And I'm also the person who habitually turns off my colleagues' office lights when they've stepped away from their desks. Some of them are here today, and if you guys didn't already assume it was me, now you know, and you're welcome. I've found that as I progressively take on these small, manageable steps, it eases the anxiety and has given way to a new way of seeing, an earth-conscious lens that can be applied to every aspect of life. And as you probably suspected, I'm here to encourage you all to do the same. Chances are you're already doing some of these things, but we've got to do more to broaden the impact we're making. For example, there are ways to weave this way of thinking into the places you work? Beyond just a recycling bin in the break room, perhaps there are projects or processes your business could and should completely rethink or even say no to because they have environmental implications. Find and speak about the ways your organization has crossover with helping the environment. I guarantee that they are there, no matter what kind of work your business does. Here's a very simple example from my own experience. I regularly check in with a local museum, which often has used shipping crates and gallery pedestals to dispose of. We work together to get these items into the hands of Central Indiana artists who will happily use them and keep them out of a landfill. This started as a simple conversation and has since turned into a regular practice for their institution. Finding and bringing up ways to make environmental change at your job will potentially feel awkward and apropos of nothing. It might be uncomfortable, but it is beyond time to get uncomfortable. But if we take the time to interrogate old habits and have challenging conversations, we plant the seeds of awareness and care with those who might not be where we are in regards to seeing the need to help the planet. So much of what I have shared has lived solely in my anxious mind, so to be able to share it with this collective and hopefully challenge you means more than I can say. These problems are so big, but we can be bigger, and we have to do it now for those who will come later. One last thing. Earth Day, Indiana, is June 4th in Garfield Park. Also, there is a representative from the Hoosier Environmental Council here. Delaney Barber, if you'd wave or stand up. She has informational handouts and would love to talk to anybody who has questions on how to start making an impact here in Indiana, both big and small.
Usually when I'm in front of a crowd like this, I have significantly less clothes on, and somehow that gives me a lot more confidence. That's the weird life that I've chosen to live. My name is Jake Omen. I was born here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I grew up just outside of the city. The first half of my life was pretty normal and pretty chill. I was out of shape, nerdy little bookworm. I was obsessed with history and with politics and with professional wrestling. And at 17 years old, I jumped into professional wrestling. My nice, normal life took a very hard right. And it became super insane, really like a life of chaos for the last 17 years. Nowadays, I can stand here having wrestled in 21 countries, and I've been on TV and I've been in magazines. I somehow ended up in a Japanese romantic comedy. It's not on Netflix, I'm sorry about that. A lot of things that when I read back in my own journals, I even have a hard time believing, but I was able to live those. And it's because along the way, at one point I realized that there were two choices in life, and it was either now or it was never. And when Creative Mornings said that audience takes the stage, the theme was going to be now. I really want to come out here and I want to tell you there's a lot of things in your life that really are now or never. And the story that was really the catalyst for my now or never was about a decade ago. I worked at a place called the Vitamin Shop. It was what it was. It was retail. I hope that none of you have suffered through what retail means, but I'm sure we probably all have. I was there for a few years, and it was cool. The main thing was I made a really good friendship with a girl named Kirsten, and we were partners in crime for the next couple of years. Eventually, she got promoted to manager, and it was real cool. We just got to run things for a little while. You know, it's easy to work every day when you're in there with such a close friend. Until our old boss, Deb, showed up one day, and she said that they're probably going to be letting my friend Kirsten go. So as a show of solidarity, I told her, hey, Deb, just as a heads up, if she goes, then I go. And it was in that moment she asked me, in her snide tone, well, what'd you do next? So I told her just offhandedly and with a little bit of apathy because I knew it would really get under her skin, I guess I'd just go wrestle in Europe, Deb. It's a thing I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I've been putting it off. I was the type of guy that even if I had a lead or something like that, I'd be like, oh, I'll do that later. I don't need to do that now. She definitely didn't believe me. A couple weeks later, she called me. She told me they fired my friend Kirsten. She asked me if I was going to be at work on Monday. And in the most respectful tone possible, I told her, hell no, Deb. And now, instead of asking what I was going to do next, she said, well, what are you going to do now? In that same tone, I said, well, Deb, you know, I got to be a man of my word. I guess I have to go wrestle in Europe now. And she didn't believe me again. This picture was taken a few weeks later in Malmo, Sweden. Oh, the stomping one, the last one. That was taken in Sweden a couple weeks later. I actually went. I ended up going to Europe for a month, mainly Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. It was really awesome. It was that month that didn't just open up a ton of doors for me in my career. It didn't open up just a ton of doors in professional wrestling. It changed my entire life. It changed my entire perspective. I saw the way all those cultures lived. I saw the way they behaved. There were a lot of new ideas. There were a lot of new realities out there that I got exposed to. That was the most pivotal month of my life. And I almost didn't take it. I got pressed in that moment with that conversation with my former boss, someone who lives way too in the box. And I finally went for it, and I realized that was the moment that now or never became a big thing in my life. And ever since then, any weird thing that gets thrown at me, I do it. And I do it now. The other thing I'm going to show you here is another thing that really reiterates the importance of now or never to me. This is myself in the background, and that's my buddy Adam. He was my best friend for 16 years. We got into the professional wrestling business together. We traveled a lot of roads together. We had a lot of weird stuff thrown at us when we were really young, a lot of opportunities. And we were really good about saying, we'll do those later, and really pushing those to the side. I don't know if we were scared of failure or scared of success or just scared of change, but we were able to push those away. Eventually, I made that trip to Europe, though, and it changed my entire perspective, and I changed my entire life to now and never. Unfortunately, my buddy Adam never did that. And a few years later, after Europe, when I started becoming kind of a superstar, like when my life started really taking a turn, he was still a guy that said, I'll do it later, and then he developed cancer. And that was a lot of the next couple years. And then he ultimately passed away. And that really hammered home to me that now or never is super important. Because I look back at all the opportunities that I've had, and I don't want to think about a life that I had where I didn't live those. So I wanted to come here today to tell you, there's probably some context in which this applies to you. Now or never, and it's super important. Even if it's just the friend you need to call, tell them you miss them or you love them, you should probably do that now. If there's some cause you want to stick up for, you should probably stick up for it now. Lord knows there's a lot of causes right now that need advocates. And on that same note, the Scandinavian social welfare system puts ours to shame. Their gun control laws put ours to shame. It's not rocket science when people are doing something right. Maybe you should just go ahead and read into that. So vote for people like Andrea, please. Anyway, that's what I want to throw at you. That is your now or never. I'm sure there's some context you can apply it to for yourself, but it's super important. If you hate that job, figure out a way to get out of it. I'm not saying quit it right now, but like figure out a way to put the wheels in motion. Like buy a plane ticket, schedule the vacation. You probably got a lot of PTO anyway. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Don't let your now become a never. Thank you.